Hello there. Thank you for coming to your appointment. So tell me, let's do a little bit of an intake. Um, what has been your experience with the psychiatric field? Multiple therapists. Okay. All right. And then any medications? Okay. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. All right. And okay. And how long have you been on these medications? Oh, okay. Extensive history. Interesting. All right. Very good. Okay. Well, in that case, let's begin getting a little bit of a profile. So, let's see. What is your relationship like with your parents? Strained, not good. Okay. Very interesting. Can you tell me a little more about that? Yeah, just like a general sense of the vibes, you know, cliche critiques, bad situations, all of that jazz. Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. And where are they now? Okay. Right. Any children? Okay. Right. Well, there's always a very, 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 very high chance that you don't have any children because we're currently a highly childless generation, which, although people think, oh, well, then, it's great to not have a child, it's also very psychologically impactful because then you're permanently frozen in the state of your adolescence, which I've seen 40 and 50-year-old people who are kind of like frozen in their adolescence. They're not trustworthy or dependable. They're a little weird and very subject to their own emotions and rationale, which is really sad because then they get confused and start to feel this impending doom as death, natural death and age loom, which is odd because it's like, have you not accepted your mortality? Nonetheless, it's beautiful to have a child. It's always wonderful. I know that people often kind of have this like anti-natalist approach to their point of view where they'll think, oh, well, what is the point of having children? Or, oh, you have to have certain circumstances and situations in order to have a child, a certain bank account, a certain income, a certain particular set of conditions to have a child. But it's not an application process. It's life. It's just how it is. Nonetheless, let's review. What is your daily habits? Do you happen to, go out, exercise, get a little bit of sunlight, eat well, drink enough water? Okay. Things to be improved then. Right. 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 And what does your sleeping schedule look like? Don't mind the sounds. It's perfectly okay. It's over there, we're over here. Nonetheless, what are your sleeping schedule like? Okay. Would you say that that's routine, or would you say that it kind of bounces around and sometimes you suffer from like insomnia spells? Okay. Very good. Honestly, we pathologize a lot of symptoms in society way too much. I would blame Tumblr. I would say that when it comes to insomnia, it's just a natural outcome of kind of just dysregulating your nervous system, really. It's not really a pathology. It's not really like a mental illness. It's just kind of something that can be easily corrected back into place just with certain changes in general lifestyle and dietary and cognitive exercise or whatever. Nonetheless. All right, what exactly do you do for work? Okay. Would you say that you find satisfaction in that? Okay. It's very difficult to find people who don't find satisfaction in their work, considering the overabundance of bureaucratic jobs. Yeah, I would understand that mindset. It's like, what exactly is the point of the job? Nonetheless, We can always find elements of satisfaction in anything we do as long as we can accomplish it correctly, because then it kind of builds up our own sense of confidence. It builds up a sense of pride in your work. It builds up a sense of discipline. Although we do take on a job, and employers can be quite interesting in their work ethic and practices, at the end of the day, we work for ourselves. We work to basically enjoy the act of creation, or the self-discipline that comes with knowing that you've done a good job. And if they can't appreciate that, then you can obviously bring it to their attention. And if they still don't respond, find another place of business to work at. And with that set of discipline, you can more accurately or aptly start to demand and vet different businesses for their requirements. Nonetheless, different tangent. Alrighty then. Is your partner, what is your current relationship status? Okay. Okay, interesting. In that case, let me just review some of this information. I'm going to just kind of square it off, really just assess. Okay. From this, I can tell no satisfaction at work. I would highly recommend perhaps kind of focusing in on the menial tasks that you do have to accomplish, whether it's brooming, whether it's filing, whether it's organizing, whether it's anything really, and just taking tiny little bits of enjoyment out of that work. It's not for your employer, it's not for the business, it's not for the corporation, it's for you. Those are measures of self-care. I would say that perhaps getting a nice little notebook that instead of costing $2 is $3, and then it'll have like a pretty little cover on it that you can then enjoy a little more and kind of practice your handwriting inside of the journal as you work to organize or whatever. Or perhaps doing little sort of like orderly types of decisions that'll really kind of help you take ownership and pride in what it is that you accomplish and do. Here we go. As for the labor itself, if you feel like the job itself is something that you don't really picture yourself doing, it's not something that really is conducive to your skills or talents, I would recommend perhaps if you're trying to pursue something in the creative or artistic route, that's a little bit more not necessary, because everyone wants to do the arts because that's kind of how you express yourself. But I would recommend doing something perhaps creative, artistic on the side, building up that project until perhaps you can live off of it for a while. If not, then pursuing something that can more so exercise the logical or practical portion of your brain, which would then yield a more well-suited result. So, for example, if you enjoy anything really, like if you think that your job just isn't really satisfying your core self, I would highly recommend getting a job perhaps in a low interaction field in medicine, where you just take one patient on at a time and it's kind of like low work or low turnover or whatever. Then you can kind of see how your labor is impacting others. You have a direct connection with your work as opposed to being a middleman, essentially. As for your child, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much. Every parent makes mistakes. Every parent makes errors. It's no big deal. At the end of the day, it's what it is to be human. The goal is that your child takes the good, learns from the bad, and does better, essentially. As for your relationship with your parents, you can reflect on your relationship with your child back to the relationship you have with your parent. That's how a society works, where you basically do huge building blocks of family units, and then that kind of translates to the community as a whole. I would say, once again, take the good from your parents, accept the good from your parents, cherish the good from your parents, because at the end of the day, they did their best, and it's because they loved you. And when it comes to the negatives, which do happen for a number of reasons, I would say that the best thing you can do from it is learn from it, understand it to the best of your ability, and in an essence, there doesn't necessarily have to be forgiveness because it's more so a matter of understanding. But if you feel the need to forgive, then forgive, and sort of show that sort of understanding in the interactions you have with your parents, where when their flaws do act up or when their errors or mistakes do act up, you can kind of give them that sort of like acknowledgement that they are doing something wrong, but give them the patience of understanding or respect of their autonomy and understanding that, hey, you'll get up on your feet, you acknowledge that there might be something wrong, and if you don't acknowledge that there's something wrong, then that's something that I'm going to ignore and sort of walk away from, because bad company do spoil good attributes, at least in that occasion where they're trying to normalize it. So for example, if someone has a little bit of a habit and they're trying to normalize it, walk away from that situation. Don't support it, don't enable it, don't have anything to do with it. And then once they're done with their little habit, just return and just make it known this is not something that you're going to be indulging in or supporting. As for the relationship you have with your partner, keep in mind that the best outcome for a child is that the parents, the birth parents, stay together. That's how the child remains as protected as possible. That's how the child develops as best as possible, receives the adequate discipline that they need and the adequate affection that they need. So when it comes to the relationship, just remember that you both have a shared common goal. You have to make sure that you guys have common values, common morals, common goals. The love that you feel, the honeymoon feeling of romance, is not love. That is desire. That is lust or desire, but it is not love. If anything, attachment. But love is the shared sense of we've created life together, we are living creatures, we want to take care of every living creature, and we have comparable goals that make it easier for us to kind of head towards a similar direction. That'll be what solidifies you together. That's what keeps you guys together, especially during hard times, remembering that there is a shared common goal and parameters and rules in place to keep you guys on the narrow path. If you broaden that path a little too wide, the connection is going to be lost, and you're going to start justifying to yourself in your head why it is that the relationship should end, and that'll subject your child to a lot of statistical issues and also yourselves as individuals. Nonetheless, what were the other key features here? Medications. I like to call them chemical lobotomies, normalized chemical lobotomies. I remember they tried giving me medication when I was 5 years old for ADHD. Little did they acknowledge that I didn't know the language. Little did they acknowledge that I was never put into preschool, so I wasn't properly socialized. And little did they acknowledge that I basically had to figure everything out on my own, including the language. So obviously there's going to be some odd developmental issues going on there that no one knew how to adequately respond to, aside from just saying medicate and sedate the child, which they did to a lot of my friends who had similar problems, similar issues, although I think they knew the language. And they were basically missing chunks of their childhood and adolescence, and their development was stunted. So I would basically say that when it comes to these medications, obviously do as you will, Aleister Crowley, really. But perhaps maybe once you get these habits in place, the medications can go away and should go away. Don't let anyone possess you. Don't let anyone own you. Don't let anyone make you a slave to their industries, for that's what it is. Now, can you tell me, do you have a professed faith? People go with Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam. People profess faiths for different religions. Okay. Would you consider yourself spiritual? Okay. What does that mean? You seek out like metaphysical concepts, things that go beyond the material world? All right. Would you say that there's any sense of order or structure? Would you say that there's any sense of knowing in those? Okay, that's what you like about it. That you don't know. Okay, interesting. All right, do you think that perhaps this lack of knowledge might be exacerbating your issues with adjusting to reality, and then consequently leading to a sense of lack of control over all of these other symptoms in your life? Okay. Right. Well, at the end of the day, you just have to choose a faith that is in touch with reality, whether it be a cultural facet, a knowledge facet, an intellectual facet, a moral facet, a sort of like you basically see the results, you see the fruit of their faith, and then through that you can more easily ascertain which faith belongs to you. But there's a reason why all of these religions are like thousands of years old, and there's so many scholars and academics and different branches and different studies about them. Unlike what the atheists believe in their own individual, very short-sighted understanding, yeah, there's a reason why they exist. All of them, honestly. Okay. Now, let's see. What was that? Oh no, I'm trying to do a one-time checkup with you. I know that a lot of therapists want you to talk about your problems all the time and then unpack your childhood all the time, and then they ask things like, how did you feel about that? Or they ask questions like, oh, and how would you concern that and all of that jazz. At the end of the day, they're kind of getting you into this sort of they're kind of plunging you into the deepest part of the ocean where you're stuck inside of your head and having to constantly overthink about all of the most painful parts of your life and see it from different corners, different angles, and have to understand and see what truly happened now, and constantly have to examine all of this sort of like agony or whatever. It's a great business, honestly, because the more that they keep you plunged underneath there, the more you're going to keep coming back. There's quick fixes to this. Diet, I would say 3 easy meals a day, maybe 5. Different strokes for different folks. Breakfast is very important. That's how you break the fast from the night before. You could either do a small, highly like vegetable meal, or you could do the whole typical traditional American breakfast that is heavy on the grains and fiber and the meat and all of that jazz, which would help you to kind of feel more energy and have all of those carbs to kind of burn through the day. Then obviously lunch, that should be a little bit less than your breakfast if you're going down the traditional route. Perhaps a good sizable sandwich. If you're doing the 5 easy meals, then perhaps a soup. And then at the end of the day, dinner, which should be the smallest meal if you're going the traditional route, because you don't want to overindulge yourself before sleep. It'll cause nightmares and it'll wake you up. It contributes to insomnia because your body is basically processing the food you just ate, which kind of keeps you awake. 5 easy meals, though, is a little more easy on the digestive system. People say it'll be a lot more easier to digest. Water intake should be half your body weight, and if you exercise or if you sweat a lot, even more. Let's see. Routine sleep schedule. I would recommend the waking up as the sun rises and going to sleep when the sun sets. I feel like that's the most natural. I would say that if you're spending late nights and, basically, how do you say it in English? Trasnochándose. Basically waking up a little too late in the day. That's definitely going to contribute to a lot of your mental illnesses, which aren't mental illnesses, but rather just natural consequences of having a dysregulated and disorganized life. So I would say that perhaps instead of letting people tell you that you're broken, you instead recognize that maybe your day is just messy. Let's see. There we go. What's that? You've had a lot of pain in life. Yeah. Bummer. So, there we go. Normal sleep schedule. Wake up when the sun rises. Go to sleep when the sun sets. And, I feel like that should be kind of like an easy little path to follow. It'll take some exercise. You'll definitely lose track of it every once in a while, and you'll feel like, oh, I messed up and I can't, get it back, and when can I do what? The fun of it is going to be like a video game, essentially. It's like, it's kind of like, although sometimes the game will kind of move on without you, you can pick up at any point in the day, in the hour, in the minute. You can pick up whenever and get right back on track. It's still going to be kind of like an exercise, a practice, but at the end of the day, just don't let it get to you. Don't let it consume you. Don't make it drown you, because that's exactly what the society wants, is that they want you to stay in that drowned state, because that's how you're easier to control and manipulate. That's how you're easier to basically get lost in the sauce. Insane in the membrane. Nonetheless, are there any questions? Did I miss anything from my notes? No further questions? Well, you have my phone number. Contact me anytime you need. If you need any support, any moral support, if you need any guidance, then I'm more than happy to help you. But just follow my instructions. And if anyone tells you, oh, well, you need to think about everything that's happened negatively in your life, just know that they're a charlatan who's basically trying to use you for your money and get you to become a permanent client of theirs that forever looms upon the pain of your own life, when at the end of the day, who hasn't gone through pain? In fact, I'm going to point your attention towards children born in war-torn nations who have to experience the worst types of pain. Have you ever seen a baby in Palestine go through shock? Like physical shock, where their eyes are open and they just can't process what just happened to them. Yeah, maybe know that you have control over your life, and there's a lot of advantages that you can take advantage of, and a lot of things in your control that you can work on, and perhaps leave the dwelling pain to other people. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that a little harsh? I didn't come to coddle your feelings. I came to help you. So, if you want to go and have your feelings coddled and be a permanent fixture in someone else's schedule, there's plenty of people who are willing to take $200 a week and do that for you. Here, we don't play those games. Nonetheless, here's all of your notes. If you need anything covered, if you need any support, once again, give me a ring-a-ding-ding. And yeah. Are there any further questions, quandaries, or queries? No? Good. All right, in that case, take care.